Hi, everyone. Welcome back to English Podcast, day 20 of the 30-day English challenge.
Day 20. Yesterday we learned to complain politely. Today we're building on that with something even more useful, actually solving problems.
Ooh, that feels like a natural next step. Complain, then fix, right?
Exactly. Today's topic is solving a problem, the language for explaining an issue and offering real solutions.
Honestly, I think this is where a lot of learners get stuck. I can explain a problem just fine, but jumping to solutions in English feels like a totally different skill.
It really is a different skill. Describing what's wrong is one thing, proposing a clear way forward is something else entirely.
I usually just end up saying, I don't know, it's just bad, and stop there completely.
It's just bad identifies the problem, sure, but it doesn't move anyone any closer to fixing it.
Exactly why today matters, I guess.
Right. We're going to give you a simple structure so you can move from problem to solution smoothly in clear English.
Before the structure, let's talk about where this actually comes up, because it's more than just work, right?
Definitely. Work is the obvious one, but also home problems, like a broken appliance, or planning problems, like a scheduling conflict with friends.
Oh, and tech troubles too. Explaining what's wrong with your phone or laptop and offering a few ideas before calling actual support.
Have you tried turning it off and on again? The universal first solution to almost everything.
It's honestly shocking how often that actually works.
Right? And there's also group projects, whether at work or school, where a problem affects several people, not just one.
Oh, and even relationships and roommates, splitting chores or rent fairly when something isn't quite working the way it should.
Exactly. Problem solving language shows up everywhere, anytime something isn't going the way you planned.
Oh, and travel plans too. A flight gets canceled, and suddenly you're brainstorming backup options with a stranger at the gate.
True. Or a hotel booking mix up, and you're calmly explaining two possible ways to fix it right there at the front desk.
And even friendships, honestly. Working out a scheduling conflict for a trip or agreeing on a plan when everyone wants something slightly different.
Exactly. Problem solving isn't just a work skill, it's really a life skill, just with different stakes each time.
Okay, before the structure, one more question. Is there a cultural side to this too?
Actually, yes, a really practical one. In a lot of English speaking workplaces, there's a common expectation. If you raise a problem, you also bring at least one possible solution with you.
Really? You can't just point out what's wrong?
You can, but it lands much better paired with an idea, even a rough one. Here's the problem, and here's one way we could fix it. Sounds far more proactive than just naming the problem alone.
Oh, that's such a useful mindset. It shifts you from just noticing problems to actually helping solve them.
Exactly. It doesn't mean you need the perfect answer, just a genuine starting point to build from together.
That's such a good tip. Okay, I really want the structure. What is it?
It's simple. A good problem solving explanation has four parts: the problem, why it matters, at least two possible solutions, and inviting input.
The problem, why it matters, two solutions, and asking for thoughts. Let's try one.
Ready. There's a problem with the schedule. Three people are booked for the same day. This means the event won't have enough coverage. We could either move one person to a different day or bring in someone new to cover the gap. I'd lean toward moving the schedule, but let me know what you think.
See? Problem, the scheduling conflict. Why it matters, not enough coverage. Solutions, moving someone or adding someone new. Input, asking for thoughts.
Let's do another one. Our washing machine has been leaking a little water. If we ignore it, it might damage the floor underneath. We could either call a repair person or try tightening the hose ourselves first. I think it's worth trying the hose first since it's the cheaper option.
That's such a calm, clear way to handle something that could easily turn into stress and blame instead.
Exactly, that's the goal. Clear thinking, out loud, moving steadily toward an actual fix.
I also noticed something. The solutions part connects to day 12, comparatives, comparing which option is cheaper, faster, or easier.
Great connection. Comparing your options is really just comparatives, doing useful work in a real decision.
Can we try one more example, maybe from a different kind of person, just so listeners really understand?
Sure, let's imagine a student with a group project problem. One of our group members hasn't submitted their part yet, and the deadline is tomorrow. This means we might have to submit an incomplete project. We could either finish that part ourselves or ask the teacher for a short extension. I think asking for an extension is fairer to everyone.
Problem, a missing part. Why it matters, an incomplete project. Solutions, finishing it themselves or asking for an extension. And it ends with a clear recommendation.
And one more, someone dealing with a budgeting problem. We're spending more than we planned on groceries this month. If this continues, we won't have enough saved for next month's rent. We could either cut back on eating out or set a stricter weekly grocery limit. Maybe we could try both, honestly.
Maybe we could try both. Very relatable, very reasonable, very much how real budgeting conversations actually go.
Right? And notice, none of these examples use complicated vocabulary, just clear thinking, said simply and calmly.
That's really reassuring. I always thought problem solving in English needed really smart, complicated sentences.
Not at all. Clear thinking said simply is always more useful than complicated language said confusingly.
Okay, your turn. Pause the episode and describe a problem and two solutions using the four-part structure: the problem, why it matters, two solutions, and inviting input. Ready? Go.
Nice job. Now, here's a small tip. If neither solution feels perfect, it's completely fine to say that out loud too.
What do you mean?
I mean, you can say neither option is perfect, but I think this one causes fewer problems overall. Honesty about imperfect choices is still a completely valid, useful answer.
That's actually really reassuring. I always feel like I need a perfect solution before I'm even allowed to suggest anything.
Not at all. A reasonable, imperfect solution offered clearly is far more useful than staying silent while waiting for a perfect one.
Mr. B, what mistakes do people usually make with problem-solving language? I feel like I've made a few of these myself already.
Good question. Mistake number one, only stating the problem with absolutely no solution offered at all. Similar to what we mentioned on day 19.
Guilty. I definitely default to just naming what's wrong and stopping right there.
It's a natural first step, but it leaves everyone stuck exactly where they started.
Okay, mistake one, no solution offered. What's next?
Mistake number two, offering only one solution with no flexibility or alternative at all.
Oh, that's such a common one. One idea can feel like the only idea, especially if you're the one who thought of it first.
Right. Having at least two options shows real flexibility, and it usually leads to a much better conversation.
What's mistake number three?
Mistake number three, being vague about the solutions themselves. Just saying we should fix it somehow, without any real detail.
Fix it somehow is basically not a plan at all, honestly.
Exactly. A specific action like call a repair person gives everyone something concrete to actually agree on.
Okay, mistake number four.
Mistake number four, not inviting input and assuming your idea is automatically the right one without asking anyone else.
Right, like just announcing a decision instead of actually opening it up as a conversation.
Exactly. A simple, what do you think, turns a one-person decision into a real shared conversation.
Oh, is there a mistake number five? There's always one more.
There is mistake number five, overcomplicating the explanation of the problem and rambling on far too long before ever reaching any solutions.
Oh, I definitely know people who could explain a tiny problem for 10 straight minutes.
Exactly. A short, clear problem statement gets everyone to the useful part, the solutions, so much faster.
Quick bonus thought. What if someone doesn't like your suggestive solution? I always take that a little personally.
Totally normal reaction, but try not to take it as criticism of you. It's just feedback on the idea, not a judgment of your ability.
Easier said than done, but I see your point. The idea isn't me, it's just one option on the table.
Exactly. Staying open to feedback without getting defensive usually leads to a much stronger final solution anyway.
Okay, 5 mistakes, 5 easy fixes, plus 1 bonus mindset shift. Okay, one more question. Does problem-solving language change depending on the situation, formal versus casual?
Great question. Yes, in a formal situation, like presenting a problem to your manager, you stay structured, specific, and solution focused.
Like, we're currently behind schedule on the project. I'd suggest either extending the deadline slightly or reallocating one more team member to help.
Exactly. Clear, professional, and immediately useful for a decision maker.
And in a casual situation, like solving something with a roommate?
In a casual situation, you can relax and keep it simple. Hey, we're kind of behind on rent this month. Should we split it differently or just wait until next paycheck?
Just wait until next paycheck, the unofficial solution to half of adult life.
Honestly, it's not wrong. Casual problem solving can be short, relaxed, and still perfectly effective.
So, formal explanations stay structured and specific, and casual ones can be short and relaxed.
Exactly. Same four-part idea underneath, just a very different length and tone.
Can we try one more? Maybe a tech problem, since that's such a common one?
Sure. Formally reporting to an IT team, our internet connection has been dropping every hour or so. This is affecting the whole team's productivity. Could we either schedule a technician visit or try restarting the router remotely first? Casually, texting a friend, my Wi Fi keeps cutting out. So annoying. Should I just restart the router or is it time to call the company?
So annoying. Very casual, very honest, very much how I'd actually text a friend about it.
Exactly. Formal keeps it structured for a team, casual just gets straight to the point between friends.
Let's practice that difference. Pause again and describe the same problem two ways, once formally, once casually. Go ahead. Great job, everyone. Okay, let's move to word tour.
Word 1, troubleshoot. This means to find and fix the cause of a problem. Example, let's troubleshoot this together.
Word 2, option. This means a possible choice. Example, we have a few options here.
Word 3, alternative. This means another possible choice, especially instead of the first one. Example, is there the alternative we haven't considered?
Word 4, approach. This means a way of dealing with something. Example, let's try a different approach.
Word 5, brainstorm. This means to think of many ideas quickly, often as a group. Example, let's brainstorm a few solutions.
Word 6, feasible. This means realistically possible to do. Example, that solution doesn't sound very feasible.
Word 7, drawback. This means a disadvantage of an idea or plan. Example, the only drawback is the extra cost.
Word 8, prioritize. This means to decide what's most important to deal with first. Example, we need to prioritize the biggest issue first.
Word 9, implement. This means to actually put a plan into action. Example, let's implement this solution right away.
And word 10, flexible. This means willing to change or adapt easily. Example, try to stay flexible with the timeline.
One bonus word, workaround. This means a temporary solution that avoids a problem, rather than fixing it completely. Example, for now, this workaround should be enough.
11 great words. Try using 2 or 3 of them the next time you're solving a problem. Now let's move to say it better.
Instead of saying, this is a problem, you can say, we've run into a bit of an issue.
Instead of saying, I don't know what to do, you can say, I'm not totally sure what the best approach is here.
Instead of saying, do this, you can say, one option might be to try this first.
Instead of saying, that won't work, you can say, I'm not sure that would be the most practical option.
Instead of saying, let's just do my idea, you can say, I think this could work well, but I'm open to other ideas too.
Instead of saying, fix it, you can say, let's figure out the best way to handle this.
And instead of saying, what do you think, you can say, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
That last one sounds so much warmer than just a quick, what do you think?
Small changes, but they sound so much more collaborative and so much more like a genuine team conversation.
I really love I'm open to other ideas too. It sounds so much more flexible than just pushing your own plan.
Exactly. Staying open usually leads to better solutions than sticking rigidly to just one idea.
Okay, quick recap before the challenge. The problem, why it matters, at least 2 possible solutions, and inviting input.
And remember the small fixes too. Always offer a solution, suggest more than one, be specific, invite input, and keep the problem explanation short.
4 simple parts, and suddenly solving a problem out loud feels a lot less overwhelming and a lot more organized.
Okay, now for the most important part, today's challenge.
Here it is. Today, describe a problem and 2 possible solutions using the 4-part structure: the problem, why it matters, 2 solutions, and inviting input.
Record yourself saying it out loud, even just on your phone. Just 4 simple sentences.
So, better than my "I don't know, it's just bad" approach, right?
Much better, and a lot more likely to actually get something fixed.
If you want a bonus challenge, try explaining the same problem 2 ways: one formal, one casual, just like we practiced today.
And if you feel brave, post it in the comments or share it with the hashtag #RealLifeEnglishChallenge. Day 20 done. 10 more days to go.
And remember, solving a problem well isn't about having the perfect answer right away. It's about thinking out loud, clearly, and calmly.
Exactly. Even 2 imperfect solutions said clearly move things forward more than silence ever could.
I love that. From "it's just bad" to a real, thoughtful plan forward.
Well said. And remember, this is Inglesta Podcast. Simple English, real life. Every day.
See you tomorrow for day 21.
Bye for now, and good luck solving that next problem.